Welcome to On the Clock right here on the Forward Progress YouTube channel. I am Rob Pizzola. Today, I am drafting for the Philadelphia Eagles in the 2024 NFL Draft. Now, just a reminder, I'm drafting this based off of what I would do if I was Howie Roseman, not exactly what the Eagles are going to do. So this isn't a prediction of what the Eagles are going to take in the first, second, and third round this year. This is more so what I would do if I was in the general manager's shoes. And the Eagles are in a very intriguing position this year because there's some roster turnover. For the first time in a long time, they don't have a starting center. Cam Jurgens could start there, but potentially late in the first round, Jackson Powers-Johnson, if he's available, that might be an option for them. They could desperately use a cornerback. James Bradbury's aging, Darius Slay's aging, and that was a huge problem for them last year. So the Eagles definitely have some needs, but they're picking at number 22 in the first round, and that's going to be a weird spot where maybe the top corners are gone and they'll have to reach. So we'll see what we're going to do here for Philadelphia using Pro Football Focus's mock draft tool, and we're doing the first 3 rounds. So we'll enter the draft room right now as the Eagles. And listen, every team should have some consideration in terms of trading up or down. I'm not a huge fan of trading up unless you're going to do that for a quarterback. The Eagles are not going to trade up for a quarterback. So what I'd rather do here is just run the draft. Let's get to the 22nd pick in the draft, and we'll see what's available for the Philadelphia Eagles at that time. All right, some intriguing options available here. 3 cornerbacks. Cooper DeJean out of Iowa had a great pro day at Iowa. He's kind of going up draft boards again now. Nate Wiggins, good option here. Kool-Aid McKinstry would be a bit of a leap. Now, the Eagles also need depth at receiver. Obviously, they have their top 2. They brought in Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker coming off the worst year of his career. Who knows what you're going to get there? The problem is all the top wideouts are gone. It would be a stretch to draft a wideout at this point. You have your center, Jackson Powers-Johnson, available here. So there's lots of options that are available to the Eagles one way or another. Now, Byron Murphy is extremely intriguing because Byron Murphy here is the guy that I would expect to be off the board at 22. He's an interior defensive lineman. He doesn't exactly fill a need. Obviously, Jordan Davis is there with the Philadelphia Eagles. Their D-line has been a position of strength, but I'm not scared of taking positions of strength sometimes. And the Eagles, a couple years ago, their defensive line basically got them to the Super Bowl. It really excelled getting pressure on the quarterback. So sometimes you can turn a strength into an even bigger strength. That's an option here. There's also 6 trade options. So we'll explore those. And if we can move back just a couple picks here, which is very possible with the Packers, that's something to explore. So we'll offer up our 22 to the Packers for their 25. Let's try to get that 58 and offer our 120 from the LA Rams. Let's offer that as a trade offer and see if Green Bay comes for that. Okay, so Green Bay takes it. So to summarize, we're moving back 3 spots, but we gain an additional second rounder to pick at 58. We give up the Rams' 120th pick. So we're going to go back 3 picks here and pick at 25 instead of 22 with a bunch of good players available to us for the Philadelphia Eagles. Bo Nix goes 23 to the Vikings, which is interesting. Byron Murphy, the Packers take him. They needed an interior defensive lineman. That makes a lot of sense. And then the Cowboys go with Nate Wiggins. This leaves us with a couple of options. Now, DeJean Newton, you see here at the top of the board. Pro Football Focus is extremely high on him. I would consider this to be a little bit of a reach for the Eagles at this point. I think he's a borderline first-round prospect at this point. I'm certainly not getting a ton of value by picking him at 25. Cooper DeJean and Jackson Powers-Johnson are the 2 for me that make a lot of sense. Kool-Aid McKinstry also like a great corner, but you see his ADP is slightly lower. I think the Eagles desperately need a corner right now, like desperately. And Cooper DeJean is the guy that I would certainly target. Again, I mentioned he had a great pro day, great size for a corner, but you see James Bradbury, he's slowing down and teams are attacking. Darius Slay slowing down. They bring back CJ Gardner-Johnson into the mix who can play some slot corner, but they need someone who they can develop because their cornerback group is very much aging. I think this is good value for them at this spot, fits a positional need. So for the Eagles, I'm taking Cooper DeJean at pick number 25. Before we get into our next selection here, if you're looking to bet on the NFL draft or the NFL or anything for that matter, Pinnacle should be your sportsbook of choice. Find out what pro bettors have known for the past 25 years. Pinnacle is where the best bettors play. You must be 19 plus. not available in the US. And as always, please play responsibly. And this has worked out pretty nicely for the Eagles here, with a couple of offensive linemen available in this spot. So we'll explore all the options here, but Zack Frazier fits a definite need for the Eagles. Obviously, they lose Kelce to retirement. And as I mentioned, Jurgens is there now, but there's someone they're going to want to develop. Frazier is a very versatile offensive lineman, has a big frame, and he would go, honestly, in most drafts earlier than this, in the 40 to 45 range. So we're at pick 50 here. That's huge value. You do have the tackle out of BYU, who's an early second-round prospect. That's intriguing as well. And further down the board here, we're getting into reaches. Again, I'd like to see the Eagles get a wide receiver at some point. That's not to say they don't have an elite top two, because they do, just looking for more depth. But this to me is kind of a no-brainer. If we take a look at Zack Frazier here at this point and his availability, and we just go to the analysis tab here on Pro Football Focus, fantastic flexibility, high offensive line IQ. He can get low enough for the quarterback sneaks, which is actually hilarious that that's one of the pros, considering this would be an Eagles team that loves to do that. So I just think that this is the perfect pick. And at number 50, you get great value. You get a position of need, someone you can plug in right away on the offensive line. So we're going Zack Frazier for the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, so we're at pick 53 here for the Eagles. And this one is really interesting. There are 4 trade options available to us. I don't think I'm going to explore a trade here, though, because I see some names on the board that are really interesting to me. So we have Kingsley Suamataia, the tackle out of BYU. This is very intriguing for me for the Eagles because he's not a starter right away. And obviously, anyone who follows Philadelphia would say the Eagles don't need a tackle. They have Jordan Mailata, left tackle. They have Lane Johnson at right tackle for this season. Lane Johnson's getting older. It might be time to start exploring secondary options. And this is a project player, someone who could develop into a starting tackle and a very good one, but isn't there just yet. That's very intriguing to me. We also have a lot of wide receivers available on the board. Keon Coleman is someone that sticks out to me from Florida State. He's more of a contested catch guy, like a T. Higgins, so to speak, where he doesn't have a lot of agility, but he can go up and get a ball. I think this would be a very good range for Keon Coleman here as well. But I just can't get over the fact that we have Suamataia here at 53. I expect him to go higher in the regular draft. And some people would say to me, well, why would you pick him here if you'd expect him to go higher in the actual draft? Every year, draft prospects fall. No one predicts, the exact order of what's going to happen. There are going to be people available at these picks, mid to late second round, that just fell in the draft for whatever reason. In this particular instance, I think this is a great spot to get a tackle of the future, someone who could develop behind 2 other good tackles. So we'll take Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU at pick 53. So we're at pick 58 here, which is going to be our final pick of this mock draft, unless we trade down, which we'll go through the names here. So Keon Coleman is still on the board for us out of Florida State. My only concern with Keon Coleman is the similarity to receivers that they already have, jump ball receivers on the outside, especially A.J. Brown. I do think it would be a good option. Certainly, I think Keon Coleman is going to go in and around the 45 to 50 range in the actual NFL draft. We're picking at 58 here. As we go down the list a little bit further, let's see what's available to us further down. Now, Chris Jenkins out of Michigan, I talked about him in a previous mock draft. I think this is a solid spot to pick him where he'll go higher in the actual draft. Edgerrin Cooper is actually very interesting as well as a top linebacker prospect out of Texas A&M. Probably a starting caliber linebacker in the NFL, which we're getting at the end of the second round here. Now, the Eagles have a bunch of linebackers, but they could use more depth and someone to challenge for a starting position. They do have Devin White and Nakobe Dean. Oren Burks is there. Zach Bond is there. They have Nolan Smith on the outside. There's certainly a lot of people here. Bryce Huff as well. But they could use another linebacker in the fold. This is a challenging pick. It really is. Because you do have 2 players that I think are good positional value, both of a team need at wide receiver and linebacker right now. The Eagles defense did give them a lot of trouble last year. They did sign Devontae Parker in the offseason to be that number 3 guy. I'm not convinced that he will be it for them. But Edgerrin Cooper in this range, linebackers tend to drop if they're a first round prospect. Same with safeties. They're just not that top premium position. But at this point, late in the second round with our fourth pick of the draft, I really like that to fill a hole for them and someone who could really challenge and be a rotational player in the early going. So let's go Edgerrin Cooper out of A&M as our final pick in the draft. All right, so we're here now, and PFF grades us draft an A. They didn't like the Edgerrin Cooper pick all that much. The only issue I have with their grading system is PFF has a lot of prospects that are ranked highly in this like 50 to 60 range, which I don't actually think are going to go in the 50 to 60 range in the actual NFL draft. So if I wanted to draft one of those guys, I would have traded back to do so. But Cooper DeJean immediately fills a need at corner. So we traded back to the Packers from 22 to 25, still got a starting corner for ourselves. We wait till 50th pick in round 2 to get Zack Frazier, who's eventually our Kelce replacement at center. We get a project tackle that can work under Mailata and Lane Johnson at number 53, and we bolster the linebacking core. Personally, this is one of my favorite drafts I've done for any team so far. I'm interested to know what you say as a Philadelphia Eagle fan. Did you like the draft? Would you do something completely differently? Would you target different players, different strategy? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you do like these drafts here on Forward Progress, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe here to Forward Progress for more mock drafts in the future.